Well, thank you, Raleigh, and good morning to all the traders that have joined us today. Thank you for your time and your patience. Let's get right on to this. I am going to cover the cycles analysis of iCinDER. And before we do that, we have to go really through the disclaimers and the risk disclosure. iCinDER tools are indicators that should not be used solely or as replacements to your current tool set. All projections are hypothetical and are only used for educational purposes. This family of tools is an addition to those that you may have already, and we suggest that you use them along with the ones that you are using to finalize your decisions in trading. Neither the author nor RJ5 Group LLC provide any assurance as to returns. Uh, Hopefully, you all know about risk management and commodity futures trading commissions, futures and options trading has a large potential for rewards, as we all know, but there is also a large potential for risk. Be aware of the risk and be willing to accept them in order to invest. And the last piece that I like to cover is that all the information that is shown is hypothetical, and the performance has limitations and may not actually execute in the same way as you would in a real live market. With that, let's jump right into the presentations. Rolly actually told a lot about me. And basically, I am a trader and a developer. And the first thing is I became a trader. And that was, as you mentioned, back in the late 80s, early 90s. And in time, as I worked through accounting and computer information systems with some large companies, I decided that what was needed was some type of consistency in the system. So in the early years of trading, basically you learn all the different type of indicators and you try to make some sense out of them and you trade some and then you trade others and eventually you end up with something. You say, well, I need to search for solutions. And that's what led me to look at specific type of indicators and then study them. And through the background that I had, I was able to finally in 2006 generate a set of algorithms and a methodology for measuring the cycles from the perspective of velocity, which then gave me trend direction and it also allowed me to see market strength. So I've been trading for a long time. Since 2006, the algorithms were coded, and back in 2014, they were introduced for the Ninja Trader platform. So let's jump into the agenda. We're going to talk a bit about the market trading challenges. We're going to look at how to find tradable setups with iCinDER software, and we're going to cover through a step-by-step process to find the trades, to be able to execute and have a high degree of success. Next to that, we're actually going to take the trade. I'm going to show you a trade that I took yesterday, and we're going to talk about avoiding trading traps because we all go through that. Nothing better than at the very beginning of your trading days to let a loser run, right? And cut a winner short. So we have all different type of traps that we fall into. And then what this should lead us to is to the idea that we need to create a methodology for trading. And I'm going to actually propose a specific methodology for trading with different tools. Some of the tools are the ones that I have created, but there are a number of other pieces of or tools that I implement. One of them being shark indicators, Bloodhound. So the challenges. One of the challenges that we have is market movement and turning points. I mean, the market can go up and up and up, but you figure out when is it going to turn and go down, or if it's moving down, when is it actually going to have a turning point and move up? So we look at those pivots, we look at those turning points, and we want to ascertain where they are. But that becomes a big challenge for us because we can't really do a reasonable assessment and find when they turn. The other thing is range movement. When you pick periodicities, and basically by picking a periodicity, you can have a range movement. Like sometimes you have chop, right? But chop has a movement in range. Is the range, does it have enough amplitude that you could actually trade within that cycle of movement? So that's a question and a challenge. The other thing is analysis in the fast market. There's nothing worse than being looking at the market and you pick a specific periodicity and then it moves so fast and you have so many indicators on your chart that you can't make an accurate analysis. And then you have no idea to whether you should go short, go long, or by the time that you do go short or long, it's left, the train has left the station. And then what are you going to do? Then you got to be that thing that could have, or that trade that could have turned into a winner turns into a loser, right? And the along with this is that we all, at the very beginning of our trading careers, we use visual trading, right? We put indicators on our charts. Based on the indicators of our charts, we make assessments. So we need to create a trading plan, and the trading plan can be supported by tools that can execute or at least make the analysis for you and provide you with a, let's say, a green go, a red stop, or a red short. Lastly, as one of the challenges is risk. And I know I put risk at the bottom, but risk really belongs at the very, very top. Because if you don't manage risk, what will happen is you'll take that account, you'll over leverage yourself, and then you'll have three, four, five, six losses, and those losses will be so substantial that you basically killed your account. And managing risk, one of the things is having an adequate account. The other thing is taking a risk that does not take such a large percentage when you have a loser. So I'm going to cover, as part of the challenges, the steps to trade with the indicators. One of the things you're probably going to ask, and I like to put this at the very beginning, what do I get if I buy your software? What am I going to get? You're going to get this thing which is called a cycle indicator. So they measured the small cycle, the small time frame, minor, the I, an intermediate time frame, and the major time frame of a cycle. So you can see when the cycles are in confluence, you can be or you can be fairly assured that it's either a long or a short or a bullish or bearish bias. We have something called velocity bands, and velocity bands actually take velocity, put it over price, so you can see amplitude of velocity. And it almost acts like an adaptive moving average, and you'll see that on the charts that I will show you. And I have something that I created at the very beginning. It's called Ranger, and Ranger actually helps me to assess risk at a specific periodicity. So I'm going to show you a chart, and the chart has 526 volume of oil. And on that one, the risk is, or at least the Ranger is 9. So it tells you that a 9 ticks in that specific one. And I'll show all that as we go into the demo. Then there's a stochastic filter for the V2, because if you start looking at velocity, and you can see with the stochastic from velocity, see they're moving fast to an oversold or to an overbought state. And we have something called trend guide value, which helps us to make an analysis of the cycles itself. Trend guide RT attempts to actually put targets on your charts based on the findings that from the velocity cycles. And lastly, I mentioned that periodicity is one of the things that can drive risk, and it can also drive what reward you can actually have. So I created a periodicity timing tool, and you put it at a specific time range, and it will assess what it should do for a range bar, for a Renko bar, or for a volume bar. And the other thing that you get is you're going to get Bloodhound templates. And the Bloodhound templates, for those of you that own Bloodhound, it will help you to take the analysis one step beyond that visual trading methodology. So taking action on an analysis. I always, when I trade, I look at the market and you see what's actually happening. I look at the periodicity finder on my chart so I can actually see what my chart should be set up as for basically a small time frame and a high time frame. I look at the trend using these cycles. I verify in multi-periodicity analysis that the cycles are in confluence. If one cycle is moving down and the other one is moving up, there's no reason to take a trade. If the market is moving basically in a bearish bias, you have to go with the trend. So we try to enforce those things through the usage of Bloodhound. iCinDER Ranger values helps us to assess risk management. So if I see a large volume, like 17 ticks, I know, okay, that the risk is going to be a multiple of 17 ticks. And I got to be willing to accept that. And I can manage that by basically modify the number of contracts I take. We're going to look at validating setups. And then finally, we push the button. We push the button, we go right into the system, and we actually take the trade. So you should ask at this point, what can cycles tell me? Okay, and this is kind of a busy chart, but I'm going to go step by step. Let's look first about the A and the B. And the A and the B, as you can see, right, here's A, here's B. It can show you the larger move. If we looked at the peak right here of the histogram, which is actually the V2 cycles, we can see that it's actually a movement to the top side, right? So that's a peak. So that's a little cycle movement there from A to B. We also see that all three, this confluence between the three cycles, that all start moving up right here. There's the minor cycle, the intermediate, and the major cycle that took a turn right here. Same thing you'll find right here on B. And same thing you don't find it over here. You actually don't find it until later. So basically, by looking at that, you can actually assess the cycle. So let's take it one step further, okay? We're looking at turning points, right? So if we look at the V2, the cycles, and the confluence of all three of them, you'll see that there's a trough and there's a peak. And that helps us to match the peaks and troughs and the turning points. So it helps us to make an assessment of that. The second one you actually see, there was an improvement done to the original work. The original work you see in the middle right here is actually 2006. Um, Below that, you actually see an improvement that was done. And basically, there's a half of a standard deviation band. And the crossovers of the bands helps us to pick basically a validated entry point at the bottom, and there are arrows that are drawn on the screen. So basically, at item one, it's a crossover over zero. That's the basically the histogram crosses over zero. But if you look at the previous tool, there's actually a crossover about 5 bars before that, and that actually becomes the entry point. So we'll see that once we actually put all these tools together with Bloodhound, we'll see all those things. The other thing that you can actually see when the market goes into chop, you'll see that velocity actually doesn't have much of amplitude. Now, it doesn't have much amplitude. It's actually very short. And that actually helps you to ascertain when you're in chop. The next thing, well, what can you tell? Well, if you look at the peak and the trough, right? Peak and trough, from the bottom to the top, it helps you to ascertain the strength of velocity and how fast velocity was able to move price. And then it helps you to have confirmation. So let's jump and right into what my trading chart would look up like. I actually put this thing called Ranger Bands, and Ranger Bands helps you assess resistance and support. And as price moves to the top and hits level 3 resistance, you know that at that point there could be a turn to the downside. Secondly, you actually have a support band also for Ranger. The velocity bands, which act like an adaptive moving average, but they're not an adaptive moving average. What it is the value of velocity stretched over a moving average. And it just happens to match that pretty well. The other thing that I have is the V2 bands, which can either have a standard deviation channel, which is what you actually see here, or a Keltner channel. The crossovers, and you can see the dots where it crosses downward or upward, are points of inflection of velocity and possible changes in price movement. And the last I put a stochastic of the V2. This is the V2I minor trend, sorry, intermediate trend. And it helps you to assess when actually there's a change. So we have there on the top panel, range of bands, velocity bands, and trend guide. First pane, and this is distributed with the installation, so you don't have to go and set up anything yourself. You can start from that point and move forward. The stochastic of the V2, and the bottom panel, which I actually shrunk quite a bit, is actually shark indicators bloodhounds. So when you see it here on red, It's actually indicating that there's a bearish bias. When you actually see it turn green, it's indicating that there's a bullish bias. And there's quite a number of uh, templates that are built into a single template with logic nodes. I did talk about periodicity, didn't I? And when I talked about that, I said, well, there's something called a market analyzer, and the market analyzer can give you a lot of information. What do I use on my charts? One of the things that it measures is the standard deviation of price, which is basically the flux. In this case, what you can do is you can create a chart with the standard deviation value, and you're just looking at noise then, where you could actually put a stochastic with that value, and it helps you to see the movement within the bar. Then you actually have range bars, so that's the value for range bar for oil. This was done yesterday. It was 7 for um, the small time frame, and it's 29 for the high time frame. And the same thing if you want to use Renko, I have the values for Renko bars and values for volume. So at this point, you should probably ask this question, well, what do you trade the most? What I trade the most really is volume bars. And I've been doing for that for quite a quite a long while. So we're going to talk about the step by step. I know we've gone over a lot of talking. We spent a lot of time in this, but this is a setup for what we're going to look in the next few minutes. Set up two charts minimum with periodicity from periodicity finder. This is how you set up a system for trading. You verify that the V2, S, I, and M have confluence. The V2 types show the likely bias of the market trends, and you trade with the trend. You verified amplitude to Ranger or Ranger bands, and that helps us to basically assess risk. You verify the amplitude of the velocity bands, which tells you where there's a lot of volatility in the market at that point. And you can verify price in relationship to the velocity bands because they tell you quite a bit about whether you should be in a long or a short position, or you should actually be setting up tighter stops. And you verify the stochastic of the V2 for overbought or oversold states. Evaluate the risk in relationship to the range of values is the last thing, and then you can actually take the plunge. Trap number one that we all fall into is risk, right? We don't assess risk. So I actually am the type of person that say, okay, whenever I go into a trade, I have a set risk. I'm only gonna let us pluck from air. 10 ticks is what I'm gonna take as a risk on oil. 12 ticks. My first target is on the 121. My second target is the 1.6. My third target, which is the one, if it does go way up there or down, is a 3-2. The other thing is that a trap. What is the turning point, tops or bottoms? So if you use the iCinDER tool set, you'll be able to find out tops and bottoms. You use periodicity to your advantage through the periodicity finder. And finally, don't let those losers run. Take profit based on the range movement, volatility and liquidity, which you can assess with all the other tools issues. Take care of those, and you should be picking the right candidates. And the last thing is take trading as a profession. It is not a hobby. Uh, get good tools, get good software. Make sure you always prepare in the event of a catastrophe that you can recover your system and continue to trade. The next thing is press the button after you do the analysis. You apply the step-by-steps guide. Take the trade. A lot of info. So let's switch over to my trades. This trade actually is one trade that I ended up taking yesterday, and I use tools from other people. I actually have a tool where I this comes from trade the plan, and I pick the tops right here. Notes the point of control was at 52.57, the value area, and I thought, well, if it goes into the value area, let's see if it bounces off the value area, because there was another secondary area that was being built. There was a node about 52.25 that was being built. So as I have this set. Let me show you how I traded this one. There are three contracts. Stop loss is 10. Profit target was 10, 16, and 32. You're going to see that I'm going to actually move them once I go into the trade. And I'm going to try to simulate in this the trade that was taken yesterday. This was about 9:30 or so. Let's go to the last area right here. I had actually drawn a bar at the bottom of the area. So if it breaks out through this area, I know that I actually can contain risk, and I will go with the market. Now, what is the market doing? If we look on the right side, Bloodhound is telling us, so the background is red. The background is red on the 30 minutes. We're actually on a short, so we should be considering shorts. When we look over here at the 526 volume, you notice that it's switching between green and red. And that's a cross volatility or crossing volatility here at the V2 band is here, which is actually the V2 minor cycle crossing over a half of a standard deviation. So let's go ahead and start this. And the trade was taken roughly about 9:32. I'm going to accelerate this a bit here. And you'll be able to see price movement. It's going to touch this area here. It touched the top. At that point, the value area changed to here. I still don't have a short over here. I have basically short on the right side, but not on the left. So when that takes place, we will go ahead and sell the market, which is what was done yesterday. And I'm waiting for a red band. Now see what is taking place here is actually bouncing off of the value area, lower area of the value area, and it's building a node right here. Still not, I think on the next bar it's when it actually changes to red. I had actually drawn this here. Yeah, I drew this yesterday. The two tops. And I'm trying to see at this point whether it actually breaks through the top or it just recedes to the bottom. The V2 is actually crossing over zero right here, which is this is actually going, the next bar should be going into short. Right there is below zero. Sell market, yes. I actually put my stop at this level, 23. So I actually was at I think 5202 was the first one. On the right side, I actually matched the extensions. So I'm going to put my and what I'm going to do now is accelerate this a bit so we can actually see the trade. Okay, it auto goes to break even. At this point, I would move my stop to here. We'll move my stop just above the screen line, about 3 ticks above that. Okay, this one, I had that one a bit too tight, not as tight as yesterday. So basically on that particular one, if we look at that, it was $520 yesterday. So we have two, 5201, 5206. Let's, of course, on that particular one, this, it only ended up with 280 or so. So that was the trade that I took yesterday. So let's go ahead and stop this here, and let's go now. I'm actually going to move at this point. I'm going to disconnect from market replay, which is what we had on. I'm going to move uh, to connecting with live data. And as we do that, I'm actually going to pick a couple of other symbols to look at. So as we do that and that loads up, let's go ahead and change monitors. And I like to give credit to the people that actually software that I use. So you'll see that showcased software. Uh, the iCinDER Advanced Cycle Analysis Tools, of course, my suite of tools. Shark Indicators Bloodhound Ultimate, Trade the Plan Floating Toolbar and Divergences Pro, tools that I use, and Rainbow in.com, Rainbow tool. And you saw the GOM MP there, which I'm a member of Big Mike Trading Elite. So I actually am using that from Big Mike. So let's jump to the promotion. Now, this is basically what you have at this point. Uh, there are two packages. One is the basic cycle analysis pack, which gives you the indicators and support and training. It's generally $5.95. It's going to be available for $4.90. And the other one is the V2 Advanced Cycle Analysis Pack, which include all the indicators and the trend guide and advice and the advanced cycle tools. And the advanced cycle tools, on that one, you have the periodicity finder. If you want to buy, and this offer is only going to be available through Friday. Let's where do I buy? So
Yeah,
if you
hey,
go,
Raul, it's Raleigh speaking. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to let you know that your screen is still loading. So we're not seeing anything but the little wheel turning around here.
okay, let me change monitors again. So it's still, well,
So what we recommend is that you stop projecting at this point in time and just start again.
okay. Let's go ahead and jump to start again. And let's try monitor 2. Okay, great. If you're interested in buying, you can go to the website and the link, I believe I provided the link. Uh, I see the trader. Okay, there it is. Thank you. And let me actually minimize this, which is what you get and the special promotion, which should be seeing that the promotion generally the software sells for $8.95. Right now it's $6.95, 22% discount, so you save $200. And as I mentioned, you can go to the website. The prices are being adjusted. So when you go to the website, it's going to show the correct pricing. Now, those of you that don't have um, Bloodhound, there's also a Bloodhound promo that I've had for quite a while. I lowered the price on that one too. So basically, if you look $6.95 for $400 extra instead of $4.95, you actually can buy Bloodhound. If you already have Bloodhound, just go ahead and buy the advanced cycle analysis tool. And let's see. The offer is good to July 17th. The other thing is this: if you want to know in depth what it's taking, how the system works, we can actually look at that. And there's going to be a promotion and a webinar on Friday, I believe 9:30 to 11 o'clock in the morning. At this point, what I'm going to do, because I want to cover a couple of other things and show a little bit more on the analysis of the system. So we're going to jump back to the charts. We're not going to just stay here, and this is not the end of the presentation. I'm going to open a couple of other workspaces. I'm going to open the NASDAQ, and this is actually live data. So when you look at this is live data. This is educational purposes. I actually make an analysis here. I say it looks like it's a short here or it's a long here. So let's do that. So let's change monitors. Okay, there we go. So we're actually looking at the NASDAQ, and you can actually see that the data synchronized across the top and the bottom. So if I was looking at this item number one, let me just take it off of just crosshairs. There was a top, and as you can see, there's a double top. So what do I do? First thing is I look at and I place that. The other thing is every single day, periodicity is calculated for you. So if you're trading this particular one, uh, volume bar one, this one's supposed to be 326 volume, and volume bar three, which is the high time frame, and that's this one here was 699. We need to change it to 1083, 1083 volume. And we do this about 9:10, 9:15 in the morning. So now we're looking at the markets. What is the market telling us? Where the market is long. You should see there's a background is green, implying that there's actually a long on the market. In this area right now, the volatility bias, which is what's taking place over here, is showing us that this area right here is chop, which we could visibly see, but it is actually a bearish bias. So we got to wait through this data here. Wait patiently through the bar, see what transpires, and then there's a possibility for an extension of price to the top side. Point of control, as you can see here, is down here. So there's a possibility, if it does change from bullish to bearish, that there could be a pull back to that level. We look actually here. This is the micro time frame, and what I'm looking at here is just a stochastic of the V2. So I'm looking at velocity. So what do we have here? At the very bottom here, there's an 8. At this periodicity, the average range that is moving in a bar is 8 ticks. So I know that if I look at my bars over here, there's actually 8 ticks between them. So if I was, let's say, for instance, if I was to go long right now, okay, price is actually sitting down here, what would be my risk? If my risk is 8, I put my stop at this level. Then I put my target 1, 10, and 15. Let me put something here, an indicator here, and you will be able to see this. If I was to go along here using my ATM, I'm going to hold the control key down. Okay, sometimes things just don't function like they're supposed to. So this one is in chop. There's nothing there in that market. Let's go ahead and jump right to oil and change that oil. And let's change this here. So oil is on the bearish bias, and it's on the bearish bias over here. This point right here would have been, let's see, that's 1031. Let's look for 1031 over here, 1031. At 1031, it was in a short bias, and this switched over to a short bias. This was actually a trade right here. And this trade would have been this. The trade would have been, as it turns red, so right here, entry is roughly about there. Then risk is 10, right? So if I go ahead and I draw a box, I'm going to draw a box that would be roughly 10, which is usually from here to here. Copy. So if I go like that, my first target is here. If I copy that and paste it again, I got a second box, and my risk is roughly right here. Uh, Usually 10 or 12. Entry at 5108 plus 1220. So the risk would actually be right up here. So that would have been the entry. Target one, it's just about here. It was actually an extension of price to the downside. There's a volume node here, secondary volume node over here. So item one, change periodicity on your charts to match the periodicity calculated by the periodicity finder. I looked at the market whether to see whether it's actually advancing or retreating, and that's usually what I do right here. I have it based on percentage, and oil has gone down roughly about 1%, 51 cents. And I look at percentages. So basically, if I wanted to go long, I would be looking at the TF. If I wanted to look for shorts, I would be looking at CL. I look at the bands right here, and the bands tell me basically on the bottom right corner, which, let's see, actually there's 8 ticks between those. At this periodicity, between each of those bands, there's 8 ticks. So that's the risk at this point. So you add that a bit to that, and then that becomes the risk, and then you target makes 1 to 1, and I mentioned 1 to 1.6, and 1 to 3.2. This is actually stuck right here too. As part of the setup, I also look at 30 minutes, and at 30 minutes, I look to see whether, with Bloodhound, whether the market is on the bearish or bullish bias. That also matches bearish. So what I did is I entered here on the short. At this point, basically is, you could see here that it's actually going against me, but I don't take my stop and move it. The stop stays there. That's the risk that I took. I was willing to put 12 ticks. The risk here in this one was $360. And roughly the amount that I would gain out of that would be 480 if it did hit the three targets. So the process is you could say is simple. This is the setup. You got to look at the big time frame, see whether it's bullish or bearish for the day. Look at 30 minutes. Set up your two charts with a specific periodicity for volume or range bars, whichever you prefer. Look to make sure this basically they're in sync. There is confluence between the high time frame and the small time frame, and you take trades in the direction of the larger time frame. You also match by looking, since you're going to enter based on the small time frame, look to see that actually, in this case, C is actually um, overbought, right? It's right at the very top. So velocity at this point has a chance of moving down. I had actually mentioned a while ago that there were other things that you could actually look at, and we would cover some of those things in the in-depth webinar that will take place tomorrow. If you look at this here, there's a green line right here, green bar, right? That is actually the velocity band. The velocity band, if price is below the velocity band, you actually are fairly assured that you're in a bearish bias. As it starts crossing into, above, like you see, if it crosses above and stays in the center between, there are actually three lines in the velocity indicator itself on the bands. And the amplitude here tells you basically the volatility. So there's quite a bit of volatility at this point, and price is still continuing to move down. If you look at the little BBs here, which is the V2, you can see that it hasn't crossed over the one standard deviation or half a standard deviation to the top side on the red line. It's actually staying below the midline. So that's still, it gives you confidence that this is actually a trade that is good to the downside. We entered at 7, we have a 12, so 795 would be the target. Right here would be the target. If it hits this level, we would actually be 95. That's what we're looking at this point. It's going on chop at this. We'll leave this one, and uh, let's see, open another workspace. What do I trade? The rainbow profile on the right part of the package, it's not a part of my package. That you can get it from rainbowin.com. It's at this point is free. Uh, for a temple like mine, yes, you do need to be part of Big Mike Trading Elite members to get the GUM MP. I do not distribute the GUM MP. It is on my charts, and I do use it, and I promote it, but you need to become part of the Big Mike Trading Elite members group to be able to download that and use it. All the other tools, some of them, the tools, like an example, the one from Trade the Plan, which is he's going to have a presentation today. I use the Toolbar Pro, and that's just to be able to draw, like an example, if there's a high here and there's a high here, and it can project. I believe there's a bar here. It can give me where would I expect the next low or the next high. So I use that tool so that I can actually see the boundaries of price movement. The trade yesterday was actually done using that specific tool, and it was $520 what it executed as yesterday. Um, this is actually the trade taken yesterday. It went in at 3 at 52.21. One was taken at 52.08. One was taken out at 52.02. And then the stop was at 52.01, came back into the stop and took the third one out. So that was the trade yesterday. At this point, I well, wondering whether Ninja 8 will have a comparable MP. Well, maybe so, but I don't know if Ninja 8 will have that. If they do, they would be basically competing with the other folks like myself who actually build indicators. Notice at this point that this actually turned into a bearish bias right at the point of control on gold. The V2 is below 0. This has just switched over. So on the day, it looks like a negative day. So if you were to look at this and we go into oversold, there's a possibility for a short right there. It's actually almost overextended. I would look at the levels. Let's see. I would like it to break through 1142. See if it actually does something right here. So what would I do? I look at the bottoms and the top over the last 3 or 4 bars, and I draw something. Then if I was to go long, there would be my long, my targets on it. And basically with Rainbow, you just put it on the area, hold the control key, and it gives you the 10 two targets actually show up, and also what your stop would be. What website has the volume profile? The volume profile comes from Big Mike Trading, and you search for uh, GOM MP. At this point, if there are any other questions, yeah, with MP, just well, from my perspective, yes, you can, but of course, that's my idea. What I call the areas, the high areas, the nodes that stick way out. To me, those are magnets. They're calling for price to move there. The areas where there's a low volume node, like here, 1144, is a rejection area. So if I'm looking at this, I try to break things into a normal distribution. So I'm going to actually do a couple of boxes. So actually, I would say this is a normal distribution right here. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, come on, draw. Low to low with a peak in the middle. There's another one right between here, which ends about here in in this area. So the second one, and now I look at this thing. This is one of the things I visualize. The other one is right about here. And then, of course, there's the third one, which is building right here. So if it breaks down, where would I expect it to go? I would actually expect it to be a hold at this 1142.40 and a call to 1141.90. At this point, it breaks to the bottom, right? Now I want to see whether it comes back up again and then resumes the move down. If we're looking at, we look at the stochastics, it's actually almost oversold. It hasn't quite reached there. So there's still a possibility that it could move up before it moves down again. How to set a pointer to show price? That is the default. It actually shows price by default. At this point, let's switch over. I'm actually going to go back. I believe this is monitor 2. I like to finish our presentations at 11:52 or so. I'll hold off for a couple of other questions. You can contact me at support@icindertrader.com. On the Skype, you can find me as RJ5 Group, or you can also reach me at iCinDER at RJ5. The support one goes into a regular mailbox. iCinDER at RJ5 goes directly to me. My website is www.icindertrader.com. With that, I guess there aren't any more questions. uh, could you post the webinar link again? Let's do this. Copy this. if you're interested in learning a little bit more about in depth of this tool on Friday the 17th at 9:30 a.m. through 11 a.m. Eastern Time, it's going to be more on this, and we'll actually look at the live markets and actually start from the perspective of setting up the periodicity, analyzing the market, going whether it's bullish or bearish, and we may take it through as we look at that. You need to look at trade statistics. You need to contact me directly, and we'll connect, and I'll show you the trade statistics. I trade a couple of hybrid systems, not just my own, and I am about 84%. You'll see that. Contact me, okay? On Big Mike, GOMMP. Look up for that. Yeah, there are the Bloodhound templates are the actual strategies for trading. Um, if you go ahead and join me tomorrow, and I'll show you, I'll work a little bit more on what Bloodhound can do. I'll show you what the iCinDER V2 bands applied template does. And then I'll show you some of the logic notes or the logics that were built there. Because there were a number of them. Some of them just tell you whether the market is bullish or bearish. Some of them looked at the V2 cycle and find where the BBs are below the deviation band. And those are triggers for trades. Like right now, there's a trigger again on gold for short. Just email me a support. I'll be more than glad to connect with you and go through um, what's available and what you can do and the templates and so on. With that, I'd like to thank the folks from TradingPub. I want to turn it over to Rolly now, and this finishes my presentation. Thank you for your time.
Okay, well, thank you, Raul, for your presentation on how you use your iCinDER band cycles periodicity to trade a wide variety of futures markets. I also found it interesting how you use volume bars and in-market profile data to help you identify potential entry points, and also the way you use multiple lots when entering in the market with very specific risk reward per stop losses, and showing some examples of how you did that using a trade you executed yesterday. I also want to thank you for the special offer that you've extended to our members of anywhere between 10 and 22% off the indicator packages that you offer, depending on what you select, and I recommend that people take advantage of that special offer. Thank you once again for your time in preparing and giving your presentation today. Now, I also want to remind everyone that today's session is being recorded, and we will send everyone that is registered a link to this recording no later than tomorrow afternoon. We have a very full session today. 13 different presenters are going to be on board, so if you missed a presentation or would like to re-review something that you heard, or there's a presentation coming up this afternoon and you have a conflict and you're concerned that you might miss it, no worries whatsoever, because everything is being recorded, and we will have this information sent to you in an email no later than tomorrow afternoon. So with that, I am going to lower the curtain here for a few moments, and we're going to get ready to bring our next presenter on board, and we'll be back to you in about a couple of minutes.